Introducing a powerful new update from the Foojan app. Now with flexible subscription plans to fit your journey monthly, quarterly, or yearly. Our new AI-driven onboarding customizes your path to feeling better, faster, and enjoy a refreshed experience with stunning 3D interactive videos. Update now. Empower your inner voice with Foojan. Download today.
It's all in your head, how you think you manifest. So get ready to rise, cause we about to be the best. Gotta switch it up, gotta break the old habits. Get your mind right, turn your dreams into habits. No negative vibes, only positive thoughts.
What is up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Mindset Cafe podcast. It's your boy Devin, and today we are joined by Dr. Foojan Zeine. She is a world-renowned psychotherapist. She is an international speaker and author, and honestly, just a brilliant mind, right? She is the brilliant mind behind awareness integration theory, AIT, and that part is a science-backed framework proven to reduce anxiety and depression while improving your self-esteem and confidence. And she's had over 20 published studies, lectures at Harvard, UCLA, and USC. And her newest tech venture, the Foojan app, right, which we'll dive into in a little bit. But she's had a extensive career in essentially wellness, in mindset, and all those things. And you guys already know, I mean, the title is Mindset Cafe. So who better to bring on than someone that is actually an expert in that area? So without further ado, thank you for coming to the show, Dr. Foojan Zeine.
Oh, it's such a pleasure, Devin. Thank you for inviting me. And hello to everybody who's listening or watching us. Are they listening only or watching us too?
Both.
Both. There you go. Okay.
So I mean, I always like to start with, like, you know, how you came to end up where you are, right? So like a little bit of background. So what was your childhood like? What was your upbringing like? What led you down this path of, you know, mindfulness and, you know, all these things?
Oh, absolutely. I'm originally from Iran. I was born there, and I came from a family that was very well known, but because they were so much in their career, that the being together within the family system wasn't. My parents got divorced, and I came actually to U.S. So I was the product of a divorce. I was product also of abuse, sexual abuse, and about age of 12, I came to U.S. And I kind of like raised myself in US. So when it came, and I was just like, surviving. And then it became around 20s where I opened the business. I was surviving. I went into a marriage, and then the world collapsed because I thought, I got everything I was supposed to get. I was supposed to get married. I was supposed to do my education. I had a business. Everything I said I was going to create on a survival base, that I was just going to strive and survive and make it without anybody, I got, but the world collapsed. I wasn't happy. So that led me to start with a lot of coaching seminars, of going to Tony Robbins, going to Landmark, going to, all of these places where from there I thought I need a lot more work. There's a lot deeper traumas here which I want to work. My relationship wasn't working, so I started psychotherapy. And that opened the conversation of, wow, how much I had regressed just in order to survive and move forward. And I knew how to survive, Devin. I never knew how to live. So that just begun this whole journey of not only working on myself in so many layers and different ways, but also wanted to become a therapist. So whatever I've learned and how I could support myself to be able to share with others. So then I started learning all of these different modalities. Some modalities think if you change your thought processes, you'll change your emotion and behaviors and your fortune and whatever happens. Some theories are like, change your feelings, you're going to change everything, or change your behavior, you're going to change everything, or clear the trauma and you're going to change everything. And I'm like, okay, I learned them all. Why don't I bring them all together? So the best of the best that was learned by me wherever I went, and the therapy that I did on myself and with my clients, I put them in a structure together. So it kind of moves faster and deeper. It has really created a path for people to become fulfilled in their life, regardless of circumstances that have happened in their life. and I've lived it, and that's where I'm sharing it from.
No, that's awesome. And so, what was that first business that you had opened, before you felt like your world collapsed?
I opened a flower business, a flower designed business, actually. It was called Princess Flowers. And we were at the Beverly Hilton in Beverly Hills. We had almost all of the Rodeo Drive. I don't know if you were from California or not, but Rodeo Drive, boutiques, and with weddings and bar mitzvah and bar mitzvahs, and everything you could ever imagine in every week. And for 2 to 3 years, I was really working hard with my partner. And it's the same time that my marriage collapsed, my business collapsed, my friendships collapsed. And it was more like, okay, what's going on? Like, I did everything that I wanted to do. What happened to me? And it sneaks in. If you're not handling what traumas you've had, it keeps coming. The beliefs that I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, I can't make it, I'm powerless against the world. All of those things that showed up for me as a child would creep in.
No, I mean that is so interesting. I mean, one of the things that you said was you were surviving, but you weren't living, and you know how these things start to creep in, and it is so true. I think that sometimes we get so wrapped up in just trying to hit goals and just trying to hit the things that we wanted to achieve, and in the process we kind of lose ourselves.
We do, because there's a part that in order for us to be able to survive, we disconnect from different parts. Because if I'm too overwhelmed and I cannot handle something, our body, our brain does this thing where you kind of lift off, you dissociate in order for a part of you to be able to move forward. So if you're dissociating from so many parts of you and you're trying to move forward, at one point all of those parts are knocking at some door and saying, let me in, let me be a part of the whole thing. And when you're not aware of what you're doing, you do things, you sabotage yourself, or you look at things, or you take opportunities or not take opportunities out of your subconscious mind, which is trying to protect you. And because of that protection, sometimes you'll react really harshly, or you don't take opportunities that are there, or you take the opportunities, but you don't think you deserve them. So then, you sabotage yourself from that. And you find yourself constantly in an area that it's not there. And even if I created everything, I was unhappy because I had no skills. I had no skills of how to be in a relationship. I had no skills of what to do even with finances. I just went day to day trying to survive. So when you get some things and it looks good, but you're not happy inside, it doesn't make sense. It's not even worth it anymore, because you do all of these things for it to make your life fulfilled. And then after that, it doesn't. So it's very confusing at one point. Like, how come? How come I did everything and I'm still so miserable? And then it was the time, like, okay, I'm just going to take over the conversation of, I no longer want to be miserable, and I'm going to take over being responsible to be happy, to become accountable, to make myself happy. And that opened up this whole journey.
No, I mean, and I do want to dive into that, because I mean, I'm I think that's diving into like the AIT, the awareness integration theory and stuff. But before we dive into that, I did want to ask something you had mentioned in the beginning, which was when your world started collapsing, you started getting into psychotherapy. And I mean, one of the people I used to listen to, and even still do, one of the greats, Tony Robbins, right? Can you explain why you went with like psychotherapy, and what is the difference between regular therapy and psychotherapy?
Psychotherapy, the talk therapy is what we call psychotherapy. What Tony Robbins and many of the coaches do is they look at who you are, where you are right now, and how you could look at the future. So they're more like self-progress seminars, self-transformation seminars, which they do take from psychology, from the field of psychology, but they move it into like the betterment of tomorrow. What are your goals about the tomorrow? So you're looking at how I can manifest and create what I need and what my goals are. The problem that I got from just doing that was that creation of my goals were still from an angle of survival. They weren't really and from an angle of thriving and being happy and enjoying life and being fulfilled. So the goals were set up as that. So no matter how much I reached the goal, it was still not enough. It wasn't enough. Now the next one, it was like nothing was ever enough. And then plus that I'm reaching the goals, because I haven't handled my past, they kept sabotaging me and I didn't know what was happening. So I would keep coming back to, I'm not good enough, I'm bad, I can't do this. So that's one approach that works for a lot of people, but it might not be enough. And for me, it wasn't enough. So I had to go back into psychotherapy and trauma-informed psychotherapy, where not only I looked at who I was and what was my background that built me this way. What were some of the thought processes and beliefs that I had created as I was growing up, based on the relationship that my parents had, based on the abuse that I had, based on the neglect, based on everything, and based on all the strength, coming to another country at age 12 and raising myself, there was a hell of a lot of strength also. So based on all of those pieces, what were my backgrounds and how I needed to get healed from abuse and from neglect and from all of those, and then bringing all my parts together. When I got all my parts together and healed, that's when I set up a goal and move forward, then every achievement, I felt the gratitude. I felt the joy. It was enough, although I wanted more because I would get bored if I would just stay there. I wanted to, expand. But it wasn't because I wasn't good enough or there was a lack. It was just like, got this, now let's have the next experience. And even if I didn't get the next experience, even if I died at that time, I would be fulfilled, right? So it's a different essence of you when you clean up your past and you become whole. And all of these other parts of you, which you've kind of shoved in closets, you have shame around them and you're watchful of nobody finding out. And, even if you're successful, you feel like a fraud because parts of you are, you're afraid to bring them. When you clean them up, when they're all here, when you're one person, a whole person, then you thrive moving forward and you own everything that you've created, the power, the vulnerability, all of it.
No, I mean, that is amazing. And would you say that everything that you just described, is that kind of the framework for the awareness integration theory?
Very much. Yes. So I brought it into a 6-phase model, which the first 3 phases are very much about the present moment, distinctions of, your thought process, your emotions, how to handle your emotions. What are your emotions they're saying to you? What are, as if they're knocking at your body, what are they really saying? What's the message and how to release them, capture the message, how I, act and behave through the world where I create these results, positive and negative, all the power, the resilience, things that are my strength and strategies that move me forward. And then my vulnerabilities, things that don't work for me, some of the past stuff that are not. So part of that is looking at my wholeness of life, like my roles in relationship, in intimate relationship, in my marriage, in my work, with my clients, with children, with, nature, with universe, with God, with anything that you can imagine, all of my relationships. So to kind of like first become aware of who am I and how do I operate the way that I do. So bringing my subconscious to the consciousness in every area of my life. So that becomes the awareness part. And then based on this awareness, I look at what are some of the belief systems that are still holding me back? What's in front of me that doesn't allow me to move, that keeps constantly coming back and hold me? And then within a process, go to the past. When did I make this up? What happened? What was the event that I said this to myself? And then, reconnect with my strength, things that I've done in order to, survive, in order to move forward, how I've endured all of those things, and bring them together and connect and heal that part. And then kind of like reinvent and say, who do I intend to be? Who is it that I intend to be with all of my strengths that I know? So this isn't something about, oh, let me see what good words are there and just pick up and put them together and say, this is who I want to be. No, this is you, because you did your homework of doing, the awareness of yourself. you pick and choose from the values that you've seen it has worked for you. You pick and choose the power and strategies and behaviors that you've done that has really made you who you are. So out of that is like, okay, this is the person I intend to be. I'm going to pick up all of this and intend to be this person. And then from there, you set up your goals in every single angle of life. You create action plans, you create structures, with people around you to make sure that you're moving forward and creating what you say that you can create. And now you have the skills that if you hit, a blind spot, or if you hit something that's not working, you have the mechanism to go back and check and reflect and see where, what stuff did I do that it worked? What stuff did I do that it didn't work? It no longer, Devin, becomes about who I am as a lack. It only becomes about like what humanistic, an existential conversation is, which is I'm good as a soul, as who I am, I'm good. The rest of it is just skills. So then I just got to learn this skill that works. And if I did this and it didn't work, just don't do it. Then now do it. But if you just did this without the background work, I've learned that it doesn't move forward. Does that make sense?
No, it definitely does make sense. And I think it goes, you can't just do surface level work. You're going to get surface level results, right? You have to dive in. You have to do the back end work. You have to, one big thing that I'm a big, advocate for is self-reflecting, right? Whether it's a situation that happens and you have an emotional response that is outside of your normal character or outside of what you would like to have happened, like reflect on it later in the day. Why did that event trigger you? Why did that event make you, respond or upset you or whatever the case may be? But then also like with hitting goals and setting goals, like self-reflection for me is like, you can't just go through life without analyzing yourself. You don't go through, life, having your car just run and knowing that it's always going to be good. Like you have to take your car in to the shop. You go to the doctor to get checkups. Like you should do the same thing for your mental space, for your, your awareness on how you feel, your goals and everything like that. And so one of the questions I wanted to ask too is like, you published over 20 different studies on this awareness integration theory. What are some of the things that you found that have surprised you over those 20 different studies?
Of course, it was astonishing that when we did it from a psychotherapy model, and I train psychotherapists and coaches, and so when we've done the study of like we give them pre-test, with depression, anxiety, self-esteem, and all of it, and then the same thing as a post-test after we do the work with them. From a psychotherapy model, we were getting like 75% minimization of depression, 64% minimization of anxiety, and raising self-esteem and self-efficacy to 40, 50, 60%. So that was interesting, but from a psychotherapy model. But then two of my colleagues who were teaching at California State University, Long Beach, I have also 4 books that are only from awareness integration. I had written this book called Life Reset, which was for public, really explaining all of this and giving them exercises. So my 2 colleagues who were teaching, they said, oh, look at this book. This book is a self-help book. Can we create something for our students? So I created the assignments for self-help model. So it's the same, like the question and the process and all of it, I created it as a self-help model. So in 4 classes in California State University, two professors, I'm not there, I'm not teaching, I didn't share anything. I just explained what it was. And every week they gave them, one area of life. Like one area was career, another one finances or relationship, your relationship with your body. And you just, the 10 areas that they gave them. And they give them the pre-test and the post-test. Without coaching, without psychotherapy, we still got 65% minimization of depression and anxiety. That really surprised me. And then based on that, it was like, okay, if even the self-help is creating such an amazing numbers, then we created the app, because then, people can have access to this type of self-work. If they wanted to do this on their own, they could do it through the app. The app has 31 areas of life. You can pick and choose. It'll take you through the process. It'll take you through meditation, self-realization conversations. It'll give you questions, pondering questions, talk you through the processes, creates a space where you can create goals and stuff. And then it was also, okay, at one point, we set up goals, we create all of that. And I said, we get to a place that it's not about me, of who I am. It's about the skills, that whether I have it or not. So then part of this was, well, you need to learn skills. When in psychotherapy and coaching, we're there. So when we know that you don't have a skill on something, we offer it to you. But how come, how are you going to do that on a self-help? Because if you're going through the process and you're like, well, I don't have the skill, then, who was going to give you that skill? But you had to go somewhere else. So therefore, we then added the AI chatbot called Mira, which then you can ask question. How do I do this? What do I do with such and such? And then it goes through all of the books, all of the, studies that we've done, and takes all of that information and gives you step-by-step of skills and what to do. It gives you reflective questions also, so you can reflect about yourself, but actually gives you skills. So that led to creation of a technology which people can use anytime, and very less costly than going to coaches and psychotherapists, and 24 hours. However, we're training internationally coaches and psychotherapists where people say, I need more than this. I need to actually sit down with someone, or I have gone through trauma, or I do need someone to work with me through trauma. Then they can also access all of the, credentialed coaches and psychotherapists also.
No, I mean, that's awesome. So there's kind of like the different levels for the different, like what you want out of it. Like if you want the, the DIY version, or like the semi-guided, or the one-on-one hands-on, that's nice, because not everyone's going to want the hands-on. Not everyone's going to want the, not do it yourself, but like, the chat bot and so forth. Right. So it's nice that you can kind of get what level you want and what kind of hands-on you want with it, and support and guidance. Because again, some people learn different ways, but also some people feel more comfortable in different settings, in different support systems and so forth. So I think that is a nice feature that you guys have integrated, and, allow kind of people to fit their need. I do want to ask, you said that essentially if someone doesn't have skills, you teach them. What are you referring to when you mean skills?
So for example, somebody starts looking at their, becoming aware of how do they operate in a relationship, like in their marriage, let's say, or an intimate relationship, right? So they start looking at what works for them, what have they done, what kind of thought process and beliefs they hold in order to create the best relationship. So for example, I was working with someone, a woman who wants to get married. And when I say, and she's a heterosexual, so she wanted to get married with a man. So I said, what are your belief systems about man? And she goes, they're cheaters, they're liars, they're this, they're that. I'm like, and you want to marry one when you believe this is who they are? So that's what I mean by subconscious concepts that shows up. It's like, how are you going to go to any date when in the background you have all of these conversations about the one who you want to end up loving and being with and marrying? So first is this awareness of, what are my thought process? What are my feelings? What are, my background on these areas? What are my hopes? What are my, fantasies that hope that all of them will come through? So the first concept would be this awareness part. And then if there are pieces where the person was traumatized, or they have a belief system because of their background, possibly their mother and father didn't work out well, so she held that background. So we come kind of heal those pieces. And then now we go into, now what kind of a relationship do you want? Like if you want a marriage, which you really want it to be the best kind in your ideal, what would it look like? So as we start looking at that, we start also looking at, do you have the skills? Do you have the skills to date? Do you have the communication skills? Do you know what your love languages are, and can you communicate that to that person? Do you have listening skills, so that when the other person is sharing who they are, you're not thinking in your own head answering back, that you actually have the skills of listening to the other person? So you look at all the relational skills that is needed for a good marriage to move forward, and you do a system check. Do you have those skills? Awesome. which ones you don't have, and let's go figure it out together. So if I have it as a coach or a therapist, I'll offer it. If I don't, I'll find the references and referrals and everything else that I can capture so that you could learn that, and then I'll support you with practicing it. Right. So then you go on dates, and then we'll chat and say, how did it go? How did you use those skills? Where did it, how, and when you used it, how did it go well? And if you didn't use it, what was stopping you from using the skills, or you come in and say, I used everything that I knew, but then he said something to me, which I had no idea what to do and how to do it. Okay, now there's another skills, or boundary setting skills. Should I say everything about my life the first and second date, or it's too much? Yeah, like hold the boundary and see. So these are what I mean by skills, right? Or if somebody's going to work, what are your ways of working with an authority, with your coworkers? How do you create relationships where, yes, there's some competitive edge, but also a collaborative edge? Not everybody has that, especially if you have been like an only child in a system of a family. You move into corporate, which is all siblings. You're not going to be able to have the skills. People who had, from big families, they knew how to handle siblings.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go into a corporate world, it's like, I can handle this. I've done this all my life. Does that make sense with the skills?
No, yeah, it definitely does. I mean, and I think it's one of those things where your bring up, like you said, single child, or you grew up in a big family. It's crazy to think about, like, you learn certain things just from your upbringing. That's why I kind of like to always ask people about their upbringing, their background, before we dive into everything, because it starts to make things make a little more sense, right? You becoming the expert that you are now wouldn't hold as much weight necessarily in like a relationship or rapport feeling, in my opinion, if we didn't know that, like, you went through these things. You're not just like, oh, I wanted to learn this, it interests me. Your life needed it, and so you found the solution, and now you're giving the solution to other people and diving deeper and deeper into it. So it makes it that much more amazing, going into these other aspects that I didn't even realize. I didn't think about them as skills, right, necessarily, but now the way that you said it, I was like, wow, they are skills, like the communicational skills, the relationship skills, the even as far as just emotional skills in dealing with different aspects you learn from an early childhood that could transfer, or even from early relationships or events that could transfer into your life now, and you not even realize it.
Absolutely. One of the things that's interesting, Devin, that one of my colleagues who also got her PhD in early development, she experienced the awareness integration therapy on herself. She had come from a trauma background. She experienced this. She was very depressed, although she had high standing and accolades, but she was very, very depressed. So she went through the awareness integration. She went around the world. Like, she went into 40 countries in 10 months, and she came back. And although she was like, a high-end person in banking industry, she came back and she says, Foojan, I want to open a childcare. She went across the world and checked out all the childcare. And as she came in and wanted to do this, we said, do you want to try awareness integration? Not only from a reflective concept of psychotherapy and coaching, but now as a proactive educational model where the kids can, we bring it as close as like infancy, because she opened the childcare for, she has infants all the way to like 6-year-old and 10-year-olds. So for the past 7 years, Devin, we've been doing a lot of study in how to bring the AIT from emotional regulation. You've always heard a 2-year-old is supposed to have tantrums. They're not supposed to be emotionally regulated. That's where, that's how it happens. They have tantrums, they bite, they scream, they, do all of that. You walk into her daycare, all of the kids have learned how to emotionally regulate themselves. They have their emotions, they do their crying. And then, because we're working with them from there, like, what do you want? What's happening? I want that toy. Okay. How do you want to, how do you want to say so you can have it? So they're learning negotiation skills. They're learning how to handle. They actually have a fit. So he goes into a space where it's for taking care of yourself, sits there, goes into his own body, starts regulating by breathing and helps himself. And then they help each other. Like if one of the other one is crying, the other one holds his hand, takes him to that space and says, okay, deep breathe now, open your eyes. Now, what do you want? Now let's go get it. As early as 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, they're learning how to do emotional regulation, how to calm themselves down, how respectfully figure out what they want, how to communicate clearly what they want, and then how to negotiate with each other and take care of themselves. That's a skill to be able to give a child as they're growing up. So, we're hoping to be able to take this also into educational models. I'm teaching it in Cal State Long Beach in 2 of the classes. I'm teaching it in university in Paris and Romania. So we're trying to teach this. We're going to Dubai. We're going to start. So I'm taking it internationally and hoping that it can also not only do a clinical work with it, but also an educational where it's part of the whole school system where people can learn how to handle, their mental and emotional and behavioral regulation and learn the skills as fast as they can.
No, and I think that it is really important that it is taught because, I have a 3-year-old, and it's funny that you mentioned this because I do have a 3-year-old and she's in preschool, and it's just seeing how fast she's grown in terms of, knowledge, in terms of her personality and everything in preschool. It's amazing. Right. And I think that's one of the things that, when people mention, they're supposed to throw a fit, they're supposed to throw tantrums. It's like, to a degree, yes, like they have these hormonal imbalances as they're growing and so forth. Yes. But at the same time, that doesn't mean they can't control it. And so my big thing is, even with my 3-year-old, she just turned 3, right? Is she'll throw a tantrum, she'll scream, she'll cry or whatever. And I'll wait, and my wife is on board now too. And it's like, don't give in. Like, ask her, I don't know what you're trying to tell me. I need you to use your words and let me know. And so then all of a sudden, instead of just screaming and pointing, it's all of a sudden she realizes, I know what she wants, but I want her to take a breath, take a second, and then tell me. And then so she's realized that it's a lot easier to get what she wants if she asks for it than just to throw a tantrum. Yes. Right. So the tantrums have definitely minimized. Obviously, there are breakdowns and stuff like that. But again, it's all about sticking to that childhood development for them and realizing like this is not the way. You know what to do. You can ask, like you can cry, you can do all that kind of stuff, but the screaming and just demanding, that's not going to work here. I'm sorry.
Exactly. So when the parents are aware and learn the skills themselves, then they transfer that skill also in their parenting style, because then you role model it and you hold the child as, their developmental stage has the ability to move to that level. Then you as a parent hold that space for them. So, and you role model that space for them and then move forward. Even we were talking about role modeling, even with relational skills. I just had a client before I hopped on to meet with you. And part of it was like, well, she does that and he does that and she does that and he does that. And it was like, who do you want to be? So that if I went and asked your children, your wife, your mother, your mother-in-law, father-in-law, everybody, that who would you want to say that they want to share about you? And whomever you are and you want to be and how you want them to treat you, then you need to just be that and role model that, 100% of the time, so that you're clear, this is who I am. And therefore, it takes work for yourself to consistently be your best.
Yes.
But then when you know that this is your best, why wouldn't you want to be this for yourself and for everyone around you? Now, this doesn't mean that we don't have our other sides, but can it be that I can take care of my other side and keep coming back to be at my best versus keep letting go and not be at my best and have hell of a lot of justifications about why I don't. But how about I take care of myself and share with others, even if I'm vulnerable, to share with others. Tonight, I'm really tired. I'm not in a good mood. I'm just going to go take care of myself a little bit, and then I'll come back and be my best again. And you're the one who creates your best. I'm not saying like, you have to match some perfect thing out there to be your best. You choose your best, but whatever you choose your best to be that you're proud of, then let me just keep being my best.
Yes. Honestly, that's the biggest thing is like there is, like you said, there is no picture perfect best. And that's what I think in other areas of life too, people put their role model, or put, let's say Tony Robbins, right? Because we mentioned him earlier, put that as like the person that you should be, when in reality, like that's his version of his best. Your version is different. You've had different life experiences. You've had different events over your lifetime. And so you overcoming those and becoming 1% better every single day is becoming the best version of you. Right. And so it's like, you have to realize that and understand that it's okay to not be up for certain things. Like you said, I just need a little bit of time. I'll come back and I'll do this. But not showing up, or just showing up and making excuses, that's one thing I've never accepted, is like, I don't accept excuses. You could tell me no, you could tell me whatever, whether even for my employees and everything like that, I accept mistakes. That means that you've realized that you made a mistake and it won't happen in the future. And we can discuss how to move forward and overcome those things. But once you start going down the excuse route, whether it's for your emotional reactions or for something that was, a physical task being done, there is no, overcoming that, because you're not trying to become better.
And when you mess up, just apologize, clean up, and let's go back to being our best. Even when you were sharing about Tony, one of the amazing and mesmerizing concept about him is he is so transparent. It's like, all right, I screwed up on my relationship, my first marriage. These were there's okay, I'm going to do my second, and this is how I'm going to do, and this is what I've learned, and he shares it. He shares what he's learned. He shares, there's no excuse. It's more like, yeah, this was my responsibility and I did it this way and I thought about it and it didn't work, and okay, it collapsed and now I'm doing it this way, or this business collapsed and I'm doing it this way and I'm sharing it with you. So it's okay if we mess up. We're human beings. That's the only way we learn to move to the next skill. Like you said it a couple minutes ago. We are not going to learn skills unless we need it. Mm-hmm. We need it. And sometimes the way that we know we need it is because some obstacles in front of us, or we failed at something and we, get up and go like this and get up and move. And it's okay. I mean, because all of it is okay. And the next part is that I'm going to get up and I'm going to be my best again. And I'm going to fail again. And then I'm going to get up and I'm going to be my best again. Mm-hmm. So the point is not, you're always striving to be your best. But I think the point is, don't settle to not become your best and then have justifications around it.
100%.
You're great. So just live up to your greatness, whatever you say that is, and strive to consistently learn as long as we live, to move to whatever you say that is going to be fulfilled, and create your best, and then share your best. Share your best.
Exactly. I love that. And I mean, so before we wrap up, I like to ask one final question. And this question is the legacy wall question, right? So on the Dr. Foojan legacy wall, right, what is the one message that you would leave for the up and coming generations that you've learned along your life's journey?
That you are responsible for making yourself a happy and fulfilled person. And you're responsible for the way you come across to the world. So again, create the best that you can. And so that when you leave the world, that you are proud of who you are and what you have created with yourself and others. Because we don't live without others. We don't exist without others. So it's always this kind of a relatedness. Our identity gets created with others, and we create other people's identity with who we are. Like for you and your wife and creating a child, you're creating other identities. So let's be responsible and accountable for what we create of this and how we share it with the world.
I love that. Where can people connect with you?
FoojanZeine.com. If they want to go to the app, Apple Store or Google Play, and the website for that is also Foojan.com. If they want to know about awareness integration, awarenessintegration.com, all the research, the books, everything is in there.
Awesome. Well, guys, make sure you guys share this episode with a friend. Make sure you guys leave that 5-star review. It really does help us out, spread the word, and it helps, when you share this with a friend, because you're leveling up and you're helping your circle evolve and become 1% better, each and every day. And in turn, that ripple effect helps you become better. So again, thank you, doctor, for taking the time out of your day to come on the Mindset Cafe.
Thank you so much for allowing me to do this.
No negative vibes, only positive thoughts. Cause in the game of life, mindset calls the shots. Got my mind on the prize, I can't be distracted. I stay on my grind, no time to be slacking. I hustle hard, I go get